At Christian Chaplains and Coaching, we teach clinical pastoral education, CPE, from a biblical Christian worldview. And for those of you who have already completed CPE, or you're with another organization that maybe you're in CPE with them at this point, or maybe you're investigating CPE and what that might look like to connect with Christian Chaplains and Coaching, you may be asking yourself, is it possible to teach Christian clinical pastoral education? Is it possible for us to teach clinical pastoral education from a biblical Christian worldview? Well, I can assure you it is not only possible, but we are doing it. Our CPE program at Christian Chaplains and Coaching is built on the foundation of an unapologetically biblical Christian worldview. Now, I got to say that again, because it is so powerful for us to say that, especially as we face the culture that we live in, the world that we live in, and the circumstances we find ourselves in. Our CPE program at Christian Chaplains and Coaching is built on the foundation of an unapologetically biblical Christian worldview. So let me back up a bit. What is CPE? Clinical Pastoral Education, or CPE, is the professional educational standard for teaching spiritual care to those with a compassionate heart for service. CPE is the primary method for training spiritual care providers who are called to the vocation of chaplaincy in secular settings. CPE provides a challenging opportunity to learn the craft of chaplaincy and gain the ability and the skills to provide spiritual care to people right where they are. Completion of clinical pastoral education, CPE, allows our chaplains to work in a variety of places, including, but not limited to, hospitals, hospices, prisons, jails, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, law enforcement, fire and emergency services, corporate and workforce locations, and the military, as well as many, many, many other locations. More and more opportunities are becoming available for our trained chaplains to provide spiritual care in so many different settings. Now, just this past week, I don't know if the student is on with us today, but just this past week, one of our new CPE students informed me that this fall, she will be completing her chaplaincy clinical training on site with an organization whose mission it is to offer hope and healing to survivors of trafficking and sexual exploitation. God is opening amazing doors for chaplains to bring his presence, his peace, his comfort, and healing to a hurting world. CPE is intense training. Man, it's intense. But it's meant to be intense, to teach you how to listen with love, allowing the other person to share their story that may be filled with trauma and grief and pain. Simply allowing the other person to share their story helps to begin the healing journey. CPE is an educational learning process with the aim of equipping you to become a man or woman of compassionate peace while standing in another person's terrible, terrible storm. Our primary mission at Christian Chaplains and Coaching is restoring chaplaincy to its Christian roots. Therefore, again, we unapologetically teach clinical pastoral education from a biblical Christian worldview. Our intention is to bring God's sacred presence into every encounter. The encounters that we have with all people from all different faiths and those with no faith at all. Our desire is to be motivated first and foremost by the love of Jesus Christ and filled with the desire to serve those outside the church as the hands and feet of Jesus. Our CPE students are taught to serve on the front lines of ministry, serving people who live and act and believe very different from ourselves. We never push our faith on them unwanted. We listen, love, while trusting the Holy Spirit to open the door to deeper spiritual conversations that may lead them to Christ. Our CPE students learn to listen and to use deeper questions to draw out the other person's story, all the while we are praying for God's real presence while we listen to their pain. Therefore, we pray for his guidance so that his presence is in us and it draws them nearer to him. Well, what is the foundation of our CPE educational process? Christian Chaplains and Coaching was formed 5 years ago as a direct response to the trends in secular chaplaincy. Although the practice of spiritual care has a long tradition in Christianity, the gradual slide away from Christian chaplaincy has been happening since the beginning of the 21st century. More and more CPE programs are being taught with a secular and even an anti-Christian aim. Today, there are, quote, professionally trained clinical chaplains who are of various beliefs, persuasions, and faith. And of course, it is good to have chaplains serving people of their own faith. However, even atheists are becoming chaplains. How can this be? The professionally trained atheist chaplain does not mean what we mean when they say spiritual care. What they mean is emotional care, making the craft of chaplaincy nothing different from social work or simple psychology. Our goal at Christian Chaplains and Coaching is not to retreat. Our goal is not to back down. We will continue to equip and train chaplains from an unapologetically biblical Christian worldview. We will love, we will listen, and we'll listen. We will make a friend, and we'll be a friend, and then we'll draw a friend to Christ. We will be the carriers of God's peace in the middle of a terrible storm. Our CPE has been recognized. Our CPE has been highlighted. We have become recognized and a recognized endorser to place chaplains in the Veterans Administration hospitals, federal prisons, state prisons, the United States military, a growing number of hospitals and hospice companies, and so many more. We have been asked to collaborate for chaplain training for Christian organizations such as Workforce Chaplains, Idaho Chaplains Association, Pruitt Healthcare, Kairos Prison Ministry International, and a growing list of amazing collaborations. Recently, the Association of Biblical Higher Education, ABHE, one of the larger Department of Education recognized accreditors, has approved our ministry, Christian Chaplains and Coaching, to teach chaplaincy and clinical pastoral education, CPE, for any of their 165 Christian universities and seminaries. Wow, that totally blows me out of the water. They chose us because we are the only ones in the entire country that we know of teaching CPE and the common standards of chaplaincy from an unapologetically biblical Christian worldview. Now, because of our collaboration with ABHE, students may earn up to 24 hours of credit towards a Master of Ministry or a Master of Divinity at a growing number of their accredited colleges and seminaries. ABHE schools include some incredibly recognizable names like Clark Summit University, Charlotte Christian College and Theological Seminary, God's Bible College, Asbury College, Moody Bible Institute, and Indiana Wesleyan University, just to name a few. We are amazed, and we are absolutely humbled to be a part of the story God is unfolding at Christian Chaplains and Coaching. I personally want to invite you to participate in clinical pastoral education in CPE. Why not take that next step? I know many of you have had much chaplain training, but have you had CPE, that next step that'll take you to the next level in your chaplaincy skills? Well, now I'd like to introduce you to 4 of our CPE graduates. Now, all 4 of them have completed 4 units or 4 courses, as we call them, 4 courses of CPE, and they've gone on to be awarded full designation as board certified chaplains. And that's no small feat. You complete 4 units of CPE, there's lots of papers you write, and then you sit before a board and they ask you lots of difficult questions, and you make it through the process and you become a board certified chaplain, the highest level of chaplaincy, at least in the secular world, board certified chaplain. However, these 4 chaplains that I'm going to introduce you to, they didn't stop there. All 4 of these amazing people are currently enrolled again in our CPE Supervisory Candidate Program, and they're currently assisting and teaching CPE to our students. Now, once they finish their CPE Supervisory Candidate Program, they'll be full supervisors, which means they'll be able to teach CPE fully with us here at Christian Chaplains and Coaching. So I want you to hear from them about their experiences in CPE with Christian Chaplains and Coaching. And so we have Kevin. Let me see. I'm going to make my slide go forward. Oh, there's my outline for today. If you missed that one, sorry about that. We have Kevin Pike that's going to share a little bit. Also Barry Surratt and Angela Davis and Mike Bartley. And so first up, we have Kevin Pike. And let me see. I don't know how to highlight you, Kevin, on the screen here. But
well, here I am, right here, everybody.
Yeah, everybody. You know what? I'm going to spotlight for everyone. Oh, I wonder what that does. I think that puts you somewhere.
Yeah, that puts me right there.
Okay, and I'm sorry. It looks like I'm in the sun. I'm sorry. I'm in my office and my son's coming in the window. The sun, I'm sorry. So first off, we have Kevin Pike. Kevin, would you tell everyone maybe a little bit about yourself and where you currently serve as a chaplain, first off?
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so I've been in full-time ministry probably about, I added it up like 34 years now. I've come from the Air Force. I've done Air Force. I've done law enforcement. I've done hospital, fire department. And, currently I serve our veterans at Veterans Affairs here in Shreveport, Louisiana, as a VA chaplain. I like long walks on the beach and quiet dinners at home. And that's about it for me.
All right. Let me get out of the sun here. All right. So Kevin, I want to ask you, and if you could let everyone know here, what was your reason for enrolling in clinical pastoral education, specifically with Christian Chaplains and Coaching?
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you everybody for allowing me to talk. So my reason for enrolling in clinical pastoral education. Well, the greatest reason I enrolled in CPE, it started over 13 years ago. I was an active duty Air Force stationed in South Dakota, working with the Chaplain Corps up there. Then one morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock at my door, and 2 police officers stood at the door to tell me that my 19-year-old son, Johnny, was killed in a car accident. Okay, this was the darkest moment of my life. I needed support, and I needed someone to come alongside me and lift me up just so I could just keep going. Well, that morning, 2 members of the chapel staff came to my house. Now, these were chaplains that I had worked with for about 5 years. And they walked into my living room while I sat on the couch, and they stood there looking down on me during my grief. And this is what they said. So, how old was your son? And then they said, so what happened? And then they said, and what was your son's name again? And that's all they said. Not once did these educated men offer any resemblance of compassion, care, or chaplaincy. Now, I don't fault them. They were good pastors, but they had no idea how to be a chaplain. But this is the moment I realized I needed to learn how to be present with someone who was experiencing the greatest grief in their life. This is the moment I decided to teach chaplaincy. And so I started looking for chaplain programs. And as I sought chaplain courses, I was introduced to CPE. Okay. And I began my journey with, I'll say, with a CPE program. But I quickly realized that with this other program that I was involved with, I was unable to maintain my own spiritual discipline as a Christian. And it was just disguised as a chaplain course, but it was very worldly in their curriculum. So I began to see what else was out there. And that's when I came across Christian Chaplains and Coaching. One thing I loved about Christian Chaplains and Coaching was, number one, they were teaching chaplains. Number two, they were teaching clinical pastoral education with Christ at the center. So I enrolled for my final units, and I cannot tell you how amazing it is to learn how to be a chaplain with an organization that practices their stance of an unapologetically biblical worldview. Now, in the Air Force, in the military, we defended the rights for others to practice their freedom of religion. But here in Christian Chaplains and Coaching, we continue to do this, that everybody can practice their freedom of religion. But the biggest difference is that we do it as undercover Christian commandos, okay, ready to share the gospel message at the moment of divine holy opportunity. So we are able to listen, love, like Ray was saying, and be there at the moment when someone is hurting and they ask, who is this Christ? Who is Jesus? What can you tell me about why you are so happy? And we are able to share that. So Christian Chaplains and Coaching has provided opportunity to learn chaplaincy in a Christian environment with an unapologetically biblical worldview, but designed to minister in a secular and lost world. So that's how I got involved with Christian Chaplains and Coaching, and the reason I enrolled in CPE.
Thanks so much, Kevin. I love having you with us. Jim and I both we just adore you, and we're so glad that you're one of our candidates and involved in teaching our students. Thanks so much for sharing too. All right, next up we have Barry. Barry, are you here? I think I heard your voice a little bit earlier.
I'm here.
Okay, let me remove the spotlight off of here.
Get rid of Pike.
Yeah, there you are. Okay, I'm gonna spotlight you. And as I'm figuring out how to do that, Barry, if you could share with everyone here maybe a little bit about yourself and where you currently serve as a chaplain first off.
Sure. I've been a chaplain for 15 years in healthcare, hospice, and as a chaplain for the Boise State Veterans Home. Even though I took 4 units of CP from another organization, I never sought board certification because I felt like that organization looked at Christian chaplains with suspicion, making a board certification even more difficult because I was perceived as an evangelical. Due to my involvement locally with the Idaho Chaplains Association as their training director, I discovered Christian Chaplains and Coaching and their focus on teaching CPE from a biblical point of view. So that to me was very important. We know as chaplains, we're not about proselytizing, but teaching from something that is the core of our being. Our Christian faith is something that we celebrate and we work at very diligently at Christian Chaplains and Coaching. So my, Ray, I don't know if you asked my question yet, but what was the biggest takeaway from my CPE experience?
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted everyone to know. Like, in CPE, there's usually kind of a big aha moments that happen during the clinical pastoral education or CPE process. And so, Barry, I did want to ask you that question for everyone to hear the answer is what was the biggest takeaway from your clinical pastoral education CPE experience?
So my biggest takeaway was my growth in self-awareness and being challenged by my peers, mentors, and supervisors to understand, first of all, how I was perceived by others and how I view and related to people in spiritual pain. When I first started CPE, I didn't know an emotion if it hit me upside the head. I was pretty clueless. I thought I go in there and I kind of make small talk and make them feel better and pray for them, and that was the end of it. But in one single word, my CP experience was about transformation, being transformed to who I was when I started and then who I was as I worked through these 4 units. One of the biggest aha moments for me was being challenged by my peers as how I came across to people and to see things in myself that I hadn't quite seen or maybe admitted to myself. So here's a question for you. Do you perceive yourself as being transformed, challenged, stretched, and becoming increasingly self-aware of your own agenda or your own sticking points? That's something that CPE causes you to look at yourself. And then secondly, are you recognizing, admitting, and owning your own weaknesses and blind spots? Or do you make excuses for the way you are? Are you willing to be transformed by the process of being with people in their pain, being present, being able to go deeper with them in their trials and troubles, and providing a supportive presence, perhaps validation, reflection, all these things that help them get to the point of coping with the situation they're in. So for me, the biggest thing about CPE was being transformed from who I was when I started to who I was after 4 units, and then 15 years down the road, who I'm still becoming now. Because once you start in CPE and being a chaplain, that process is ongoing. It's a lifetime of change and transformation.
Thanks, Barry. Man, those are difficult questions to answer, but so important. And as Barry, you've been teaching in your class, and we've teach in CPE, that we're so committed to the transformative process that takes place, that this kind of education, CPE, is not just informational, but it's transformational. And that's what's so important for us. And Jim and I kind of like to say it this way is, you know what we get to do now? We get to make disciples. And that's really what we're doing. We're transforming people into the likeness of Christ. And it just happens to be within the context of chaplaincy. So, Barry, thanks so much for sharing this morning, and thanks for being with us. You're an amazing instructor and mentor to our students. All right, now let's see, Angela. Are you on here somewhere, Angela? I think I saw your name earlier. And I think I saw your face too. Angela, are you here? Angela?
I'm here. I had to take myself off.
Oh,
mute.
there you go.
Morning.
I love to see your lovely face. So Angela is the only female on our teaching team. And boy, she brings just a unique touch that us male testosterone filled, grumpy old men just don't have. She brings something different. And so Angela, we love having you around. Can you just tell everyone maybe a little bit about yourself, and then also maybe tell them a little bit about where you currently serve?
Good morning, everybody. So I am currently in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I started this CPE process, believe it or not, 20 years ago when I was in seminary at Duke, and did 1 unit of CPE and decided, I thought, that this is not cut out for me. I was not prepared for dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of loss, and subsequently went back and got another master's degree and a doctorate degree in pastoral psychotherapy, and did that for a while. Ended up doing social work as well, and found that I was doing chaplaincy sort of indirectly. I was still kind of journeying alongside people, really enjoyed that, but did not have all of the certification that I needed. and subsequently came full circle back to doing that when I connected with Christian Chaplains and Coaching. But in between all of that, worked as a social worker. And when I started CPE again, I did end up doing it within the context of the hospital setting as well as the nursing home setting. So currently I work for the city of Virginia, and I teach a lot of prevention and wellness programs and classes around mental health, suicide, things along those lines. And I am able to utilize my chaplaincy skills that I've learned in that setting.
Cool. That's amazing. Angela, can you maybe share with everyone, hey, and also if you're not muted, some of you that are coming on now, you may be coming on a little bit late. If you could just go ahead and mute in your Zoom there. There we go. Thank you very much. Angela, can you share with everyone in your CPE experience, what was the most challenging part of CPE?
Wow. So I would say right off the bat, I would say the ability, similar to what you all heard Barry say, to reflect on my own internal struggles and basically how that plays out with external relationships. So let me kind of explain. I naturally have an avoidant personality. When it comes to anything that stirs up emotion, that creates any kind of stress, anxiety, anger, I would just kind of run from. And so I found that I struggled with what is called the fix-it reflex. As far back as I can even remember, I have always had this impulse to be a fixer and a rescuer. There was like this sense of, I would say, gratification in trying to sort of fix things or fix people, especially if I connected to it, if I didn't know kind of how to tolerate, kind of what they were sharing or what they were going through. I would just sort of interject. I would just try to come up with solutions and resources. And of course, that was coupled or compounded with the fact that I had a background in social work. And I grew up in a family where I had this caretaker fixer role. And so it was sort of this automatic and natural impulse to always want to rescue and repair. And like I said, provide solutions and resources and just kind of resolve issues because I just couldn't tolerate it. I just didn't like it. And so CPE really provided for me the opportunity to understand why I had to intervene or felt like I had to say or do something. This need to want to fix or relieve people from problems and suffering. So with that being said, I would say that one of the more challenging parts of my CPE journey was receiving feedback from my supervisor and peers, especially on my case studies or verbatims, whatever you call them, of the conversations and the interactions that I would have with patients. And that was helpful because it kind of made me more aware of why I had this impulse to want to save or fix or solve what was going on with people, kind of why I had this Messiah complex, which, to be honest, was more self-serving, even if my intentions were good. And so although the format was this safe space to do what we call the action, reflection, action model, and certainly with a covenant group of people who I clearly connected with and trusted, I was being challenged to learn more about the face in the mirror, this face, and how my life story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the hurt, the pain, the guilt, the shame, the fears, how that affected my ability to really listen, to really show up and journey alongside people, how to ask more questions and probing questions, how to care for them, how to react and respond, and really kind of, offer people the opportunity to really just kind of share. And so it was humbling. It was a very humbling experience, but it was transformative. And I think you all have heard that word before. The process for me really deepened my ability to identify my own emotions and feelings. my own history and learn and understand how those things inform my interaction with people. I would say I was challenged to be more aware of blind spots, those hangups, those self-contradictions, those feelings that were being triggered, not only kind of what was going on internally, but like I was saying, how that kind of shows up. And so I would say I developed an appreciation to be more comfortable with those emotions that I tried to run from, and those things that I feel like I just didn't know how to appreciate. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So the one thing that I would say is I got skills that I needed to make me more empathetic, more self-aware, more in touch with my own internal process, more disciplined in my skill of trying to be instead of trying to always do. And that process can only happen through CPE training and certification, and certainly in a sacred and safe environment. So if you're kind of on the fence, I would certainly encourage this CPE process so that you can know how to be a better chaplain and to provide ministry to the folks that God entrusts you with.
Thank you, Angela. Didn't I tell you she's amazing? She is absolutely amazing. And you're so right when you say that, that this conflict that kind of goes on inside of us, this wanting to do all the time. And so much of what we're called to as chaplains is to be in the moment, to be fully present, to be, rather than always be doing. And so CPE is generally a place where that is highlighted and focused on, so that we can move away from that fix-it reflex, like you said, and to be with the folks, with those that are in pain and struggling. Thank you so much for Angela for sharing today a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your CPE experience. And then we have Mike. Mike, are you on here with us somewhere? Mike Bartley? I didn't see your picture. I didn't see your name anywhere. Mike Bartley, are you here? Oh no, we're missing Mike.
I didn't see Mike get in this morning.
Oh,
Ray, so
bummer.
I'm not sure that he's with us.
All right. Well, he I guess he won't have an opportunity to share with you today. Maybe at another one of our times, one of our meetings here, he'll have an opportunity to share with you.
Mike often has emergencies at his chaplain job.
That's
that
true.
He gets called in on death, where he has to go and meet with family members. So that I'm suspecting that probably happened for him today.
Yeah. And that's actually a key point, Jim, that you just brought up, that our CPE supervisors are have a lot of experience in the field. They're actually doing the stuff of chaplaincy, as well as teaching, coming alongside you as you would maybe join up for CPE, and they would come alongside you and walk alongside. So they come with a lot of experience also. So the last thing that I want to share with you, first off, I just want to say we're so proud of them. I hope that you are too, as just, as members of Christian Chaplains and Coaching, that you're really proud of these folks as graduates. And we have others that are graduates also, these that have come on as supervisory candidates. They're wonderful people. I would take CPE from any one of these folks. And I'm not saying that to make you guys feel good, those of you that are candidates. I literally would. I would take CPE from any one of you. I'd love that experience. So I would very much invite all the rest of you to consider CPE. And so before I get into this next little piece of when does the next semester begin, a little bit about the mechanics as how do you apply for the next semester, I want to give Jim just a second to chime in. Jim, what do you have to say in regards to all that we kind of shared today? I mean, we're your team. You're the captain of the team. So we're your team, and these are your graduates. So what do you have to say about what we've communicated today to all these chaplain members that are out there?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is that we as Christians who are learning how to be effectively the hands and feet of Jesus in secular settings where we're supposed to be serving out there in the mission field, we need to learn to trust the Holy Spirit to draw the person to Christ and stop fixing people. And I think all of these candidates that we have really learned that. They're learning that there's nothing that we can do to fix anybody. Only God can fix someone. And it is amazing and even miraculous what can happen when we learn as chaplains how to just practice the ministry of presence, how to stop fixing, how to love people, how to just sit quietly and grieve with somebody who's in a grief experience, to just sit with them when they're in a trial or they're having a major problem, to ask them questions so they can talk it out. They can tell you what nobody else will want to listen to, because it's difficult to go down into those emotions and experience them with somebody else who is grieving, and invite them to do that. There's something miraculous about getting them to share their story and share their grief and tell you things that other people find difficult to hear, and how often that will open the door where they will ask for us to share the reason for the hope that is in us. And so I could not be more proud of these particular graduates, and with the significant increase and growth that is taking place in our ministry, far beyond, Ray, what I imagined when we started this 6 years ago. We need to add more teachers because our CPE is growing and our chaplain ministry is growing. And I could not be more pleased to have these people on my team. And Ray, I could not be more pleased to have you as my partner and education director either. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. And Jim and I often talk about, we feel like we're kind of out in the ocean, and we're on a surfboard, and we're just catching the wave. And that wave is the wave of the Holy Spirit, what God is doing in our midst. And we're just simply riding on what he has already set in motion. And we're so glad to have you as part of that with us also. Please invite others to be part of this experience also, other chaplains that you encounter in different aspects of your ministry, and invite them to be part of us. Well, when does the next semester, let me do that. When does the next semester of CPE begin? The next semester kicks off on September 4th and concludes in December 24th, actually. And each semester of CPE lasts for 15 weeks and includes weekly online Zoom interaction between CPE students and instructors, that you would actually be in a cohort of peers that are actually out there doing the same kind of thing. They're actually doing chaplain ministry. There's also the time for clinical on-site internship hours, and also in CPE, there's a standardized curriculum taught per the National Common Standards of Chaplaincy, which is so important that we stick to those standards. Now, the next question is, well, how do I apply? If you're interested in applying for CPE, if you'd like to be one of our CPE students and then become one of our graduates, well, you can go to our website, and the website is listed there. You can see it on your screen, christianchaplains.org, and then /clinical-pastoral-education. Or you can just simply go to our website, christianchaplains.org, and go down about 3/4 of the page, maybe about halfway, and on the right-hand side, it says Clinical Pastoral Education. Or you can also send me an email at Ray, just really simple, ray@christianchaplains.org, ray@christianchaplains.org, and I would be happy to assist you in enrolling in CPE. And we guarantee, and I can say we because I know I'm speaking for everyone that just had the time to share with you here, we guarantee that it will be a life transforming journey. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to open it up for some time of Q&A. Any questions that you all may have to any of our graduates, to myself, to Jim, any questions that you may have about CPE, the CPE process, the nuts and bolts of CPE, anything at all CPE that you want to ask us.
Ray, I'm going to jump in quick a minute because on the chat window, Robert Fisher asked the question, what level of college education is needed to start CPE? And in our CPE program, we can accept students at the junior or senior level of a bachelor's education or higher. And because of our relationship now with the ABHE and several other non-ABHE seminaries, we can get you into the CPE program. You can take the courses with us. And then when you enroll, if you don't already have a master's degree, if you enroll with a seminary that's already collaborating with us, you will have already earned up to 24 hours toward your master's in ministry or your master's in divinity with a growing number of seminaries that are working with us. So to answer your question, Robert, junior or higher level at a bachelor's degree, or if you have a bachelor's degree, you can get into CPE or higher.
All right. Anyone else? Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away.
I have a question.
Hi, Amy.
I just want to put a plug in for Christian Chaplains and Coaching. I'm almost done with CPE 100 and I've really enjoyed it. It's been really challenging, just like I really connected with what Angela was describing. And I really appreciated being able to join the program and get going on this kind of dream I had to become a chaplain. I have a question when you were saying, Ray, about the program as I anticipate going forward in CPE, being aligned with national common standards of chaplaincy. And I'm just wondering, could you speak a little bit about that? Because I'm wondering how you're navigating. Clearly, it's Christ-based. I've appreciated that. That's why I was drawn to this organization. But I'm just like looking ahead. For example, if job settings are looking for a chaplaincy degree to come out of one of the more standard organizations, how to make the case that my education is aligned with those standards, like just how that came about, how you did that.
Yeah, so we have a document that we've put together that helps to show our alignment. And what I mean by that is there are specific national common standards for chaplaincy and CPE programs, particularly in those chaplains that are going to be board certified. Those common standards were originally put together by BCCI. And now since then, many other chaplain organizations have adopted those common standards. Those common standards are reviewed by, let's say, the VA hospital. They want to make sure that your CPE is actually taught toward those standards. So that means that our learning outcomes, the modules that we teach, the kinds of information that we're going through, the kind of a transformational process that a chaplain should be experiencing is part of those standards. So what we've done is we've aligned our learning outcomes with those standards. And we have a document that actually shows how they align together. So, which is really helpful. I mean, it took some extensive time to kind of put that together and work through this idea that we have common standards, national standards, but we, as those that are teaching from a biblical Christian worldview, how does our CPE align with that? We had to make sure that they connected together, that they converge. So is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
My name is
right.
Houston. I have a question that maybe Jim could address. Having just reviewed the education standards and then your visit to the Urban Ministry Institute in Topeka, Kansas, is that going to be compatible with the undergraduate requirements for CPE?
Are you asking, Houston, if our CPE is going to be part of the Toomey Topeka program? Is that what you're asking?
Well, correct. Having completed that program, will I be academically qualified to continue on with that?
You sure will. You'll be able to take CPE with us, and it's not going to be any problem at all.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else?
I saw Roger. How do you say your last name, Roger? Is it Fauci or is it Fouché? How do you say your name? Jump on here. I don't hear him, but he posted a question. How many CPE units do you need to be a CPE educator? Well, you have to have 4 CPE courses completed. Some people call them units. We call them courses. And you have to successfully become certified as a board certified chaplain or a board endorsed clinical chaplain. Then you go through 4 courses of CPE as an SEC, a supervising educator candidate, where you're actually co-teaching, learning philosophy and theology of coaching and teaching with our ministry so that you can become a teacher. So it's 4 units of CPE, board certification, and then 4 units as an SEC to become an educator for us.
David Almeida has a question.
Good morning, everybody. I was an intern at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, and unfortunately, before the unit was up, I had to withdraw because of a health issue. And so I was not able to complete my initial internship. Now I turned to a Christian ministry that sends out lay chaplains into the hospitals, but I found out that they require that all volunteer chaplains be fully vaccinated in order to participate in the ministry. And on the basis of my religious convictions about how the vaccine was developed, I could not accept the vaccine. And so so that door was closed. That door was closed to me. I'm not able to go into the hospitals as a volunteer. And let me back up and say that MD Anderson did grant me a religious exemption, but nevertheless, the Christian ministry requires that I have be fully vaccinated. So I wanted to ask the other people on this Zoom, have they encountered any kind of barrier or similar problem due to the vaccine requirements?
I work at a drug and alcohol rehab center, and they had vaccine requirements, but my religious outlook didn't prevent me from getting vaccinated, so it wasn't really an issue.
David, I'll jump in there, and just from our perspective as a ordaining and endorsing ministry, because anybody that becomes a chaplain with Christian Chaplains and Coaching, if they meet our requirements and statement of faith and recommended by their pastor, a member in good standing of a church, they basically qualify to become a chaplain with us, then we do not require vaccination. We let our chaplains make that decision for themselves. Now, if you are going into a situation that requires vaccination and you are unable to accept that position because of your own personal convictions, then we back you on that. But it may mean that you are going to be more limited in your ability to serve as a chaplain vocationally or as a volunteer based on those choices. But we also believe that if you're called to it, God will see you through it. And so if you're called to chaplaincy and you really in your heart believe that vaccinations is not for you, you really sincerely believe that, we back you on that. We won't require you to become vaccinated, but we're going to have to trust that God is going to lead you to a situation where he wants you to be, where you'll be able to serve.
All right. Anyone else? Any other questions? This is your opportunity. Jump on in. I do see Becky. Hello, Becky. Hello. Becky's one of our new students. I do see you. Hi.
Lindell Gaden has a question.
Lindell, go ahead.
It's Jimmy. Hello, I just have a question maybe for someone that went through it or potentially for the group as active duty military, but I travel a lot. Like the last month, I've been gone for a week to 2 weeks out of each of the months. So trying to navigate the right time and place to be able to find a volunteer place that can accommodate the receiver.
Uh-oh, I think we lost him. Well, hopefully he'll come back. Well, we're waiting for him to come back. Hopefully he does. Anyone else? Any other questions you have?
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Quick question about the degree program at Clark Summit. Which degree program at Clark Summit receives or accommodates the CPE? Is it the MA or the MDiv? And would I have to take the MDiv?
It's the MDiv program. Their Master's in Divinity is, I believe it's an 83-hour Master's in Divinity.
Yeah.
And the CPE that is taken with us will accommodate 20 hours of that 83-hour Master's in Divinity. So basically, you pick up 63 hours in addition to your CPE with us, and you've got a Master's in Divinity.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jim, which seminary is it that will? It's a Master's in Ministry program of 48, I believe, and then they will allow.
That's God's Bible School out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They're again the AHE. They have a 48-hour Master of Arts in Pastoral Ministry, and 24 hours is earned from the CPE that you would take from us. So you're like, it's not 48. I think it's 44 or something like that. But at any rate, it's like you're more than halfway there just by getting CPE.
Yeah, I think it leaves 18 left. Didn't it leave 18?
Yeah, I recall. I think that's right.
So that would be 42 units for a Master's in Ministry.
Right.
So that's absolutely incredible. I mean, the collaboration with ABHE, they really have embraced us and really encourage their seminaries and colleges to collaborate with us to incorporate CPE into their degree programs. So it's wonderful news for you if you still are wanting to complete a master's program. Anyone else? Any questions?
Did Liddell Gaydon get back in? Are you back in, Liddell?
Yeah, I'm back in now.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and ask your question. But before you ask your question, everybody, this is a new chaplain candidate that is joining us. Really been getting to know him quite a lot, and you have to teach me something. What's the proper way to address an E9? Because as enlisted men go, that's like a general, right? So, so what's the best? How do we address you with your rank?
Jimmy's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
If you wanted to, it would be simply just with the designator. For the Marine Corps, Master Gunnery Sergeant. So
yeah, thank you, sir.
So I am excited about getting into CPE for a lot of the reasons that many of you identified. But the challenge I'm finding as I try to work it out is because I travel 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. Sometimes I was like, well, how am I going to be able to find a place to get with my regular work, get the hours done, but as well as being able to participate in the weekly Zoom. I don't want to seem impatient because I know that things will eventually line up. But so I'm looking for opportunities to it. So I don't know if you all had any thoughts of opportunities and ways to get to do that. Because I'm probably going to have to find a place where I can volunteer so I can get the 20 hours a week. But obviously that's going to be potentially outside of my work schedule with the military. And with traveling, that could also be challenging as well.
Yeah, Jimmy, now you said that you're currently in are you in the Army? You're in the Army?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps, I'm sorry. Let's see. So of course I would assume that you're restricted from volunteering in the chapel or with the chaplain program on base. Is that true?
No, not restricted from volunteering. I've been volunteering in the chapel, the base chapel for quite a while, probably going back to 2003. But I think it'll be getting the actual, Rob, Becky, getting the hours in
Yeah.
would be the challenge. So obviously it's 20 hours a week, and obviously that'll be time out of my actual office, either in a chapel, doing the work. I still need to talk to the chaplains about what that will look like and if it's something that's feasible. And I don't know if how the hours are calculated, if it's time that you're actually working with someone, or is it just time where they consider the time that's allocated with that? Because it's different than if I was to volunteer with hospice or a hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, so to distinguish between the two, so it's not actually just time that you're with a patient or a client. It can be the designated time. So that, let's say, the designated time that you're volunteering with the chapel and the chaplain program, and that can be, of course, that can be on base, or that can be in an organization that's outside the base, an active living facility, a skilled nursing, anything outside also. So we can use hours from a lot of different sources. So you can have more than one clinical site also, or clinical internship site. So you could have possibly the chapel on base along with the chaplain, and then also something else offsite that actually would supplement those hours. And you're right, it does take a number of hours to complete those clinical internship requirements. I mean, over 15 weeks, each student is required to complete 300 clinical hours. And so that breaks down to 20 hours per week, an average of about 20 hours per week. So that is a lot. So the more you could do on base, boy, I'd really encourage that one. If you can do that in the midst of your work, maybe before, after, lunchtime, whatever you could do on base, that would be wonderful.
And Ray, this is Kevin. Hey, I was just going to chime in for Master Gunny to get out there, get your dress blues on, go to a veteran nursing home, or go over to the VA. Boy, those guys would love that. And get with the chapel staff at your VA hospital and just ask if you can shadow them, walk around the rooms, and go into patients' rooms if you get the time to do that as well.
Yeah,
we would love to have
count that, and we can certainly count any time that you spend doing that, Gunny.
Yep.
So Becky Flatch did a shout out. She says, "Oorah!" So there you go. Becky Flatch did. There's a question from David to everyone wanting to know if international students can become a chaplain, and the answer to that is yes. That's going to depend a lot on your ability to log in, your technology, your internet system, and your ability to afford the cost and the fees. We do accept international students to become chaplains with us, but again, you've got to be able to get into the technology and log in, and then be able to afford the fees to be able to do that. So the answer is yes. The cost of becoming a chaplain with us, if you're international, may be a little bit higher than we post on our website because of the extra cost we endure in getting a background check done on you if you're not in the US. So that be an increase in expense. Kyle to everyone says, I'm exploring what is chaplaincy, and if it's what I'm being called to do, is there someone that could provide me with a local contact that shares your view on chaplaincy that I could connect with? Well, Kyle, let me just invite you to go to the website, navigate your way to the bookings app where you can schedule an appointment, and just make an appointment with me. We'll do a Zoom meeting, and I'd be more than happy to chat with you and help you in any way that I can in making a decision on what you might want to do. Or if you're interested in CPE, just choose Ray Huff to schedule an appointment with, and he can talk you through that as well. So would be more than happy to help you. And Ray, we're at over 10.
All right.
We're past 10 o'clock. So
all right, let's wrap it up. I